Good evening and most welcome to 1569 of the series. I will today continue with Rethinking the Inner by Johnston, and I am currently at page 102. We have been speaking about the musicality of language. And we mentioned that William James says that each word has a special tone, a special feeling to it. There is an if feeling associated with the word if. And as we saw, these accounts won't do as an explanation of meaning. We sense them, we sense the words. It's almost like they have tastes. And the last thing we said was that we're going to take the aspect blindness as a guide for, as Wittgenstein notes, there are very close connection between the two concepts. For example, one way of describing certain types of seeing as would be to say that it involves seeing a meaning. The main result was to bring out the particular nature of our relation to pictures. Although a picture might be defined as a representation according to certain rules. That is not how we relate to them. Rather than decoding a picture, we see it directly as the object it depicts. There is a directedness here. As we saw, this can be illustrated in terms of two types of possible reactions. Reaction to the picture of a cavalry charge. On the one hand, the individual may simply recognize what such a picture depicts and deduce various things from it, e.g. how many cavalrymen charged, how compact their line was, etc. On the other hand, she may respond directly to the picture, so that it is as if she actually experiences the massed onslaught of the cavalryman. For this type of person, the picture does not simply represent a state of affairs. For this type of person, the picture does not simply represent a state of affairs. Rather, as the fine shades of her reaction show, the picture conjures up the event itself. The individual treats the picture in some ways as the objects it depicts. She may, for example, recoil as if the cavalryman might at any moment burst through into the room. For her, the picture is not just a sign used to convey information. Rather, it has its own value and may be a source of delight in itself. By contrast, the aspect blind relate to pictures simply as representations with a particular use. The only question for them is whether a picture is accurate according to a given set of rules of representation, not whether it is convincing or lifeless, moving or flat, noble or contrite. The implication of this for meaning blindness is that here too what is at issue is our relation to the medium in question, in this case language. Just as the aspect blind can see, so too the meaning blind will be able to communicate. The difference between us and them would be that for them words would only have meaning as part of an agreed symbolism. Unlike us, the meaning blind would not say that a word seemed to lose its meaning if repeated many times, nor would they say that every word had a particular face or atmosphere. The meaning blind is very close to the earlier Wittgenstein in Tractatus. Their relation to language would be purely functional. Words would simply be symbols used to convey information by depicting particular states of affairs. For us, however, language is more than an arbitrary symbolism. Words, both spoken and written, seem to have a value of their own and to embody their meaning. Certain words, for instance love or even philosophy, are put on a pedestal or confer like a badge of merit on what we consider most important. Others are treated as tainted or unutterable. Similarly, words may be hard to say, or may, on the contrary, be brimming over with joyful meaning. As these examples show, words are anything but arbitrary symbols. Indeed, they are so important to us that we even get quite worked up over their spelling. Thus, if for you spelling is just a practical question, the feeling you are lacking is not unlike the one that a meaning-blind man would lack. The importance of the concept of meaning blindness is to highlight the fact that there might be people who did not have our attachment to words, people to whom the familiar physiognomy of a word, the feeling that it had taken up its meaning into itself, that it was an actual likeness of its meaning, was alien. One crucial difference between us and such people would be the way we choose and value words. Without doubt, it is sometimes as if I were comparing words by fine differences of smell. That is two. That is two. This is the right one. But I do not always have to make such judgments, give explanations. Often I might only say, it simply isn't right yet. I am dissatisfied. I go on looking. At last a word comes. That's it. Sometimes I can say, why? This is simply what searching, this is what finding is like here. Here, one might object that the difficulty of finding the right word is simply the difficulty of finding the correct technical term to describe a particular situation or occurrence. On this view, all we are doing in such cases is using a highly specialized symbol to represent a specific situation, and therefore there's no reason why the meaning blind should not do the same. If this were so, however, we should in principle be able to say why one word is correct and another wrong. In fact, we are not always able to do this. Furthermore, on certain occasions, Furthermore, on certain occasions, one word may seem appropriate and another with a very similar meaning completely wrong. Excuse me. It became a little bit too noisy here for a while. Similarly, it is significant that we sometimes treat a particular phrase or exclamation as unique or unparaphrasable. This suggests first that there are differences of meaning which cannot be explained. In the normal way, and second, that there is a level of grasping a sentence which goes beyond recognizing its information and content. Both of these ideas are captured in Wittgenstein's claim that understanding a sentence is like understanding a piece of music. However, if we are to appreciate the point of his claim, we must first consider what it means to say that we understand music. The history of aesthetics offers a range of accounts, as to how we should understand our relation to music. For our purposes, however, we can distinguish two basic contrasting views. One holds that the aim of music is to create pleasurable sensations, experiences, etc. in the listener. The other accepts that we understand music and argues that appreciation consists in decoding the message and shrouding it. Wittgenstein, however, rejects both views. Wittgenstein, however, rejects both. Views. As far as the first is concerned, he argues that it fails to do justice to the nature of our response to music. In particular, the reference to sensations is inappropriate, for even when music does give us pleasure, this is not because it gives us particularly pleasant sensations. We don't say, "Put the record on again, it gave me lovely sensation at the back of my neck." Furthermore, even the stress and pleasure is misleading, for the whole point of music and other arts is that our response takes a much more complex form than simply the expression of varying degrees of delight. The alternative suggestion that music contains a message is just as misleading. For if the point of music lies in the decoded message, why bother to encode it in the first place? If the composer had something to say, why didn't she simply say it? While the first view treats music as a kind of drug, the second presents it as an elaborate riddle, a kind of oral crossword puzzle. In both cases, the music itself is treated as irrelevant, simply a means to some external end. In an attempt to avoid these reductive accounts, Wittgenstein begins by asking when we would say of someone that she had listened to a piece of music with understanding. We do not say this just because the person shows signs of enjoyment, any more than we would say of a dog that it wagged its tail during a performance of Beethoven's Ninth, that it understood the music. Rather, the individual's response must have a certain complexity, and it is the reaction as a whole which justifies talk of understanding. Quote, understanding music has a certain expression in listening, playing, and at other times too. Sometimes gestures form part of this expression, but sometimes it will just be a matter of how a man plays or hums the piece, also now and again of the comparison he draws and the images with which he, as it were, illustrates the music. Someone who understands music will listen differently. He will talk differently from someone who does not.
Meddelande. På grund av stöldrisken samt för er och andras säkerhet, vänligen lämna aldrig ert bagage utan uppsikt. Obevakat bagage kommer att omhändertas. Your attention, please. Due to the risk of theft and for your security, please do not leave your baggage unattended at any time. Unattended baggage will be removed.
But he will show that he understands a particular theme, not just in manifestations that accompany his hearing or playing that theme, but in his understanding for music in general. The notion of understanding is underlined by the explanations the individual may give. For example, she may seek to bring out the significance of a passage by comparing it with others or by linking it up with certain thoughts or experiences. However, these explanations are no substitute for the music itself, and they only make sense against the background of our shared response to music. Here, communication presupposes kinship. If music means nothing to someone, our explanations will get nowhere. The same is true of expressive playing. Although we can show our understanding of a piece by playing it expressively, we cannot explain why one way of playing it is right and another wrong. Furthermore, we could not teach anyone rules for playing expressively. How can it be explained what expressive playing is? Certainly not by anything that accompanies the playing. What is needed for the explanation? One might say a culture. If someone is brought up in a particular culture and then reacts to music in such and such a way, you can teach him the use of the phrase expressive playing. This clearly shows that language, like music, is a play also. And the different way we express what we think about music, how we react to them, how we sense it, have nothing to do with music at all. It's another level of a language game, not originating in the music. It's not derived, so to speak, or you cannot use those things to understand music. Yes, it comes from a shared experience, but that is not the same as an origin. Language is completely different. Exactly the same meaning words can have different senses, which is all important. Something dictionaries betray, but normal use of language obey, so to speak. An autistic person won't have that sense, it would be meaning blind. For him it's just reference, and the words themselves are meaningless. What they say doesn't matter, it's their meaning that matters. It's an incredibly impoverished way of seeing the world, with no life whatsoever, completely deadened. Language is life, exactly, and I think I like exactly the same meaning words in every extent. One could be perfect and the other one could be horrendous. Shakespeare said something similar. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it was to the extent a nobleman chooses his words not because of what they would refer to or what happens with them, but by their tune. That is the only important. And that is language. It's also thinking and perception. It is an active thing. You do something. I say good night and thank you very much. Bye bye for now.